Good evening. Thank you all for coming out this vigil of Thanksgiving. A couple of housekeeping notes before we get into the reflection. First off, we're going to be rather replete with seminarians in the few weeks coming up. I'm taking off for my first little vacation time off this Friday, flying back to the motherland, California, the west side of town. And next week we'll still have Vespers. That's not canceled. My confrere, fellow seminarian intern, John Grusenmeyer, will be here instead of me, so you'll get a nice break. And he will continue with our theme on the virtues that we've been doing the last few weeks. Also taking a time break, the virtues today. I figured I'd take the time to talk a little bit about Thanksgiving since we have it tomorrow, and we'll just kind of go over that and see how that goes. And so, you might also notice we have a new face today. With me today is Deacon Stephen Jones, a veritable portent of things to come. He's graciously he's in his last year of formation at the seminary before ordination to the priesthood in May. Dare I ask how many? Do you have a countdown of days?
I do, but it's on my phone.
Okay. So, needless to say, he's very excited. We're very glad to have you here. They're off on break for Thanksgiving, so he can do benediction and I can't. So we thought we'd give you a nice blessing for Thanksgiving tomorrow. Some of you might have noticed that for German Cincinnati, very German Cincinnati, I do not have a German last name. When other people say it's all Greek to me in jest, it's the quite literal truth for me. Kudikis, spoiler alert, is not Greek, or is not German, it is Greek. And growing up, I had this kind of comic book of Greek myths. That instead of the somewhat maybe dry and dull retellings of the old myths, this really brought it to life in beautiful color and almost made them like superheroes and all the wonderful comic book form that I could have. And I love this book, and I love going over the Greek myths and seeing what these people were telling, and do the myths have any relevance for us today? And I'm not going to go over a particular myth, but instead a particular goddess, which, bear with me, I'm not going to go too crazy on you today. But we are going to see that there is some relevance to what the Greeks were saying 3,000 years ago to Thanksgiving and our families in 2021. One of my probably my absolute favorite Greek goddess would be Hestia, which nobody knows, and I think that's a rather fitting thing. Hestia is one of the original Olympic gods. She's a maiden god, so she never took up a spouse alongside the likes of like Athena or Artemis. They're all maiden goddesses. But what's really interesting about her is that, one, she's almost a Greek pagan first and last. Everyone knows Zeus and Poseidon and those Greek gods, but Hestia was born first. Hestia is the firstborn child of the Greek titan Kronos. And when Kronos learned that one of these Greek gods that he bore, one of his children, would supplant him, he definitely ate them. He ate them all but Zeus, who then defeated his father, and freed his siblings by cutting them open. When he did so, Hestia was the last to come out of the slain Titan body. The first and the last. And while we have Zeus and all these other gods who represent different aspects of society or nature, Hestia represents the hearth. She represents the fire, the very place where we come together and tell stories, where we come together and try to make sense of the senseless world around us. She is also the only God who is allowed to be worshipped at any temple. You could go to Poseidon's temple, which I had the great fortune of being at. It's beautiful, right on the beach. You could go there and worship Hestia as well as Poseidon. You can go to the temple of Zeus and worship Hestia as well as Zeus. And there's this understanding that I really love, that hearth, family, home should suffuse throughout everything we do. I brought it up a couple of times before in the past, and you all know that I love the first 3 chapters of Genesis. Let us make man in our image. And while yes, that's true, we talked about that image of love, and that justice demands that we treat each other with that love. That's not all that those words mean. Let us make man in our image. God is a triune God. God is a society of people. Man is not meant to be alone, yet in 2021, we have things like social media, where studies are telling us that the more friends you have, the more alone you are. Think about your first phone. Your first phone, depending on how far back you go, let's say a rotary phone, you had party lines. Whereas you picked up the phone and there was virtually no privacy. There was always someone else on the line. Community, society. But then what happens? Then you have your own number, and the party lines are gone. The cord was short. You would have to fight with people on who got the call. But then eventually, the cord got longer, and you could have a little more privacy to have that phone call. And now today, what do we all have in our pockets? Our own phone with our own numbers. The technological prowess that we wield today as 21st century humans, while having great, awesome benefits, is a double-edged sword. It has continuously cut us off from each other under the guise of being ever more close together. I love this holiday that we have tomorrow, because it's literally forcing the families to sit down at the table. It's forcing them to relive the experience that you are made in the image of God. You are made for society. You are made to share and to not be alone. And thank God for that. We are not alone. While the society continually offers us these things to be alone, to go and search out this notion of privacy, we have the opportunity tomorrow and every Sunday to come together almost in defiance to the culture and say, no, that is not the image I was created in. It's a great reminder to keep the hearth burning and alive in your families. That same fire that the ancient Greeks knew, but not fully, because they didn't have Christ. Let Christ be the hearth of your families this Thanksgiving, but also every day. Let him be who you gather around for protection from the wild, for warmth from the cold. Let that be the example you take tomorrow when you build up your families and you gather around that dinner table. Remember that is part of being made in the image of God. So if we can do that, then like the Greeks attested with Hestia, let's have that be the first and the last things that we do.